Everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing fantastically well. So following on from my last video on the Funded Trader program where they relaunched their website, a lot of people have been reaching out to me saying they've had emails coming through saying their accounts are being breached for whatever reason. And obviously I've had an email from them as well, obviously been subscribed to their programs, when they're obviously giving me more updates on what's been going on and some of the transparency behind the scenes. But really, this has been red flag central. So many alarm bells are ringing for me reading through this email. I thought I'll go through point by point and detail them and give you a clear understanding what I think of what the situation is and how it might evolve in the future. So the email starts just with we're pleased to announce we are now back in business and hoping to get the community back up and running and allow people to go on the challenge models and also you really get funded. But again, the next section for me is quite alarming and really goes around how detailing how they're moving their headquarters out of the USA and into the Cayman Islands. Now, typically there are a few reasons why we moved to Cayman Islands. Predominantly it's a tax haven and almost exempt from a lot of regulations that would come out of the US. So where the SEC have got involved and gone through a lot of the trading regulations for companies, it really is sort of looking to move everything away from there and be more free to do whatever they want. To me, again, a big red flag, because if you're not being regulated by the SEC and you're obviously not being able to sort of uphold some of their rules, and if you're going into a tax haven as well, that really just sounds like you are literally trying to siphon more profits out and go on to a bit more of a spending spree. It then mentions how the change to the Cayman Islands is also going to do a structure in the ownership of the company. Now, up until now, the CEO, Angelo, has been very vocal, been very part of the whole community, doing a lot of updates on videos, and he's been seen as the one who has potentially been the downfall of the company. Where you're saying you're going through new ownership, has that actually been sold, has it been bought out, is he still involved? There's no real clear strategy on this and how it's actually, again, looking in the future. If it's a case of just putting a new figurehead in place, a new person to front some of the videos, really that isn't a massive change. So that's another big red flag for me. If you're not going to announce who your new owner is, where they've come from, what their experience in the prop trader industry is, how do we know it's going to be any better? Is it going to fall flat on its face? And it's just sort of, it doesn't really sit well with me unless you're actually going to be very visible and upfront saying who the person is, how they're going to front it, how they're going to take the business forward. It then goes on to mention that the profits are going to go into charitable things to actually make a community better. It doesn't say what community. Is it a trading community? What is a trading community? Where does it even exist? Now again, if a company is taking all of their profits and putting into a charity, that's great, but you need profits to actually operate a company. We're going to have situations where potentially in the future, if they're able to survive, people will make profits. They'll actually make withdrawals and payments from this company. If you haven't got anything in the bank, then you're not going to be able to pay people. If you're giving it all to charity, you're never going to be survive and grow as a company. You've got to be reinvest. Now, are they going to become their own charity themselves and just pay themselves into that and have a trader community? Again, not clear, another massive red flag for me. Now, often when a company wants to be charitable, they will generally donate a percentage of their net profits, typically 5 or 10% to a given cause. And again, it's written into their mission statement and their core values of the company. If you ever watched Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, whenever an investor comes in there and says, I want to donate all my money to charities and profits, literally then at that point the investors get very, very nervous and say, why are you doing this? Is this a crusade to actually make the world a better place, or are you actually an operating business, want to make profits for yourself and your shareholders? Now ultimately, the shareholders of a company like this are the traders. The profits should go back to them rather than actually staying in someone else's pocket and giving away to charity. Huge red flag. So on their internal improvements, for me, this really does stink as well. What it says, we're trying to streamline and improve, and for that reason they are going to archive or delete effectively all of their archive accounts, all of the trader accounts, all of the trader chats, everything. If you're deleting all of your history, you potentially have something to hide and you don't want it coming out. It could be that people want to come back in the future and say, okay, I want money back for this challenge I didn't go through. And that's where people are now coming back to me and saying, they are terminating their accounts based on a chargeback request where people never made it. Now, essentially, if you've gone and deleted all of your support history, all of your archiving chats, everything, there's going to be nowhere people coming back in the future and disputing any claims. Again, huge red flag. Why would you do that? It's very easy to archive everything to a simple system, put into cloud storage, and you can go back and check in the future, especially if you're ever going to be audited. Now, we know these businesses never get audited, they're not under any regulation. And again, moving out to the Cayman Islands is another way of saying, okay, we're starting afresh. We don't have to worry about any of our history. We are wiping the slate clean, but unfortunately, that's not going to make the business any better. Now, when it goes on to talk about revamping their customer support, I've no personal experience of how bad their customer support was in the past. Obviously, a lot of people have vented some frustrations how bad it was to get answers out of it. It could be people just reading from an FAQ script. We also don't know how big their customer services team was. Again, their future plans are to outsource this to a well-recognized company. Doesn't say who they are, doesn't say where they're based. Either it's going to be a load of AI chatbots going through and looking at some of the emails and just pumping out elsewhere. Is it going to be online chats? Again, just filtering through a preset of questions and answers to get to somewhere else, and again, move it out to another team. For me, any sort of support model needs to have some first line people where it's going to be able to answer very basic questions, and from that go to another dedicated team, preferably in-house, who can actually answer more realistic, specific questions. I've done a lot of outsourcing within IT models for support help desk and even the finance industry, and it's never easy. It never works as well as you think it should, and obviously the teething problems are massive. Now, if they haven't got it onboarded yet, it's going to take a long time to get that onboarded, and we can see that there's obviously a lot of challenges already with people questioning and querying all of the accounts they've had in the past. So again, I don't think it's going to be that successful. I always think you're better off having a smaller, dedicated team in-house who know the product's better, who can work more efficiently, rather than just outsourcing it to potentially a cheaper company who will give you a chargeback on per call. Now, when we talk around product changes, it's very clear what they have done is they've removed all the ability to trade news as well as EAs from all of the products. Now, that was one of the big selling points of a lot of these prop firms, because we know that FTMO, being the largest one out there, they have this news trading rule around 2 minutes before and 2 minutes after. I have seen other prop firms recently change their news trading rule. We're actually doing exactly the same thing, whereas these guys have actually stopped trading news completely. It's no longer allowed. It doesn't really say what you can and cannot trade. It's just a very fluffy way of saying we are getting rid of some of the rules which people liked, which potentially allow people to make very, very quick profits, and much larger than normal. Goes on to say we're removing some of the larger account sizes. So again, if people had signed up for the $400,000 account challenges and merged them all together to get millions of dollars in funding, they're removing that ability and trying to go for smaller accounts to get people onto that platform, and then try and get money that way, and hopefully scale them up to bigger accounts in the future. Again, if that incentive of getting people to come on and sign up with the bigger accounts, those have been the people who have been able to go on there, get funded very quickly, and take big payouts, which has ultimately been a downfall of many, many prop firms in the past. I don't like that at all. I think you should be better off sticking with what you had. People knew that, and people like the ability to have a prop that allows news trading and holding over the weekend and trading with EAs. But again, if they've also gone through and look at all the data, they can see how people have potentially manipulated that. And that's obviously what we've seen in the past, where people are trying to change all of the servers into more of a real life scenario. And that's been around a lot of the slippage and spreads potentially widening and getting bigger around big news impact events. So if they're able to tighten that up and actually not have that on their servers, then it could be beneficial in the future if people are willing to give them a chance. Now, this next section is where a lot of the contentions come in, and a lot of people reached out to me. It's around the actions they're going to take for the existing people in challenges and for live accounts. So what I said previously around deleting all of their data and deleting all of their accounts, essentially if you are on a challenge mode and you are close to passing, that's now wiped out. You've got to start fresh. You're going to be given a coupon code to essentially go and buy another product and start back from zero. It doesn't work very well for me. If you have the data that says this person was at, let's say, 6-7% and close to passing, you should be able to reset the account to that point so they can start again in the future. You shouldn't have to go and start from scratch. Again, that's for me allowing people to fail, because we know that the frustration will creep in a lot of traders. They will come on and try and pass as quickly as possible, and if they're given start from scratch where they're close to passing, the probability is, and we know from the stats, they will go and blow the account. So again, it's a way of enticing people back in, but again, not giving them what they should have. So if you were previously funded and due a payout, this is where it gets, again, a little bit of a red flag, or probably a massive red flag, because what they're saying is we will do a payment schedule with you. Now, if you're one of the people who owed a large amount, I'm assuming you're going to be right at the back of the queue to get a payout. If you're potentially only owed a few $100s, and let's just say theoretically a few people sign up and they take some challenges out, and they are the, let's say, $100,000 mark, they're paying out $499 for a challenge, it's very easy for them to go and give that to the people who are It's then very easy to go and give that to people who are due a payout to get some credentials, get some bonus points back, and then for be able to say, we are paying our traders, we can get some more community feedback from them. The reality is you've just taken money from somebody, hoping they're going to fail, and paid somebody off. Yes, that is actually how the whole prop firm industry works right now. It's all around taking the money from failed challenges and giving to people. But again, I would expect people to be paying off the larger profits from people, whereas I think they're going to pay all the small ones first, if they pay any at all. And by saying you're going to do a payment schedule, that to me just means you've actually got no money in the bank account to pay them. If the reality was, when you ceased operations, you still had the money in the bank account. And we know from when my Forex ones went bust, they had over $100 million in their bank accounts that were seized by the regulators. It was actually all given back to them in the end. This should be in the same situation. If they were that good and taken on that many people, they should have had all that money in the bank account to pay people out. If you're a funded trader and you were not due a payout, let's say your account was not quite at that first month yet, or you're in a slight drawdown, then you're going to be given another coupon code to go and start the challenges all over again. Why can't you just go and give somebody another funded account? I would say that's because it's going to take somebody, let's say, 2 weeks to eligible for payout. But if you're given the ability to start again, we know only 7% of people actually pass the challenges. Likelihood is they're going to blow those accounts. So where it comes, if you were a previously funded trader but were not actually due for a payout, let's say you're in a small drawdown over the first few weeks, or you were at that point of getting it back into profit for a payout over the first month. The reality is, so you're now going to be given a coupon code to go and start again from scratch. Why couldn't you just let the people start from that funder phase? Now the reality is that most people who are actually taking on the phases will fail. We know about 7 or 8% of people only ever pass the whole phase 1 and even less to phase 2. So the reality is if you give them a coupon code, they're going to go and fail. Potentially they might want to go back and buy in another account and try and get more money out of people. Again, it's just a big red flag. Why can you not allow people to carry on trading where they left off? And this goes back to the point where they're purging all their data, they're cleaning all of their accounts out. So they're trying to regain trust in the community. I'm not sure it's going to work. The amount of emails I've had from people is just... So they're trying to regain trust in the community, but I think the things they've done so far by detailing what their plan is actually going to alienate even more. There are a huge number of red flags here. It's just not viable for them to actually be able to put all these things into place. So they're trying to regain trust in the community, relaunching it back to where they wanted to be, number one in the prop firm industry. I have no doubt in my mind this will not happen. The reality is, we've seen it before where prop firms get into trouble. We look at funding talent. They went through an issue where they had to go on like a massive rebrand. They changed their whole model, they changed everything. And in a number of weeks, it was not viable for them to continue. They couldn't pay out any traders and they had to cease operations. I'm not saying this is going to happen on this particular occasion, but it's going to be very difficult for the people who are owed payouts to get their money, people who have had their accounts almost deactivated for inability to trade over the past few weeks, whether the accounts have been blown for whatever reason. They're not going to get them back. Even if they are given coupons, they're going to start back from the start, which is very difficult to get back into a funded stage. So I think they're going to lose a lot of credibility from a lot of people out there. And as we know, it is actually quite a small, tight-knit community, and rumours will spread very quickly, and before you know it, it's going to be very difficult to actually attract any new people. And it's going to take a massive amount of advertising out on all of the social media platforms and try and entice new people in who don't know the history. But I would say to anybody taking on any prop firm challenge, always do your due diligence. And as soon as you start researching and searching for this company, you're going to find a whole range of people who are not happy. And again, massive red flags from start to finish. I'm definitely not going to be going with any challenge with them. I'm not going to give anyone money to this prop firm, not now or not in the future. So hope that's been useful to everybody, and thanks for watching. Catch you again very soon. Cheers.